The FCC meets today on its proposal to repeal the net neutrality rule, with a vote expected tomorrow. And Congress is watching carefully. One of those responsible for congressional action is Representative Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, who chairs the Subcommittee on Communications and the Internet as a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Representative Blackburn joins us now from Capitol Hill. Welcome back to Bloomberg. Good to have you here, Congressman.
Yes.
So let me ask the obvious question that I think many people have. How can you be against a rule that says everyone should be treated equally on the internet? It sounds like a pretty good idea.
Well, it sounds like a pretty good idea, but what we have to realize is that the Obama-era net neutrality rules, putting the internet under the Title II regulations that are intended for telephones, the 1930s Ma Bell regulation, what that does is to open the internet up to rate regulation and allow the federal government to actually be at the head of that pipe, if you will, when it comes to the internet. There are some things that we can agree on. I think everybody is for a free and open internet. That's what we want. The internet was not broken. It did not need federal government interference. It doesn't need to be fixed. And we realize that. And we know that putting it back in the posture that it was in 2015 is the right thing to do. And I fully support Chairman Pai and the efforts that he is making to be sure that we do continue to have a free and open internet.
So, Congressman, are you concerned at all that we will have different pricing structures and fast lanes, for example, some of the specters that we have seen raised by the rolling back of these regulations?
I am not. What you're going to see is Congress step forward and take some action to put in place some free and open internet rules. There are things that we all agree on, like I said. No blocking, no throttling, addressing latency. Those are proper steps, but they should be taken by Congress, by the People's House, by the Senate, signed into law by the President. And it shouldn't be something that changes every time you have a change of administration or you have a new chairman of the FCC. This is something that Congress should address, and I look forward to having us address that.
So Congressman, what's the big rush? I mean, you have a Republican colleague in the House, Mike Kaufman from Colorado, who said, look, I'm not saying where I am on net neutrality, but let's have congressional hearings about the ramifications before the FCC takes action. Is there any irreparable damage being done right now? Couldn't we wait until you've sorted it out?
We've been having hearings. There is quite a body of work, and I encourage your viewers to go to energycommercecommittee.gov, and you can pull down the full information from the hearings that we've had. What we want to do is make certain that investment in the internet picks back up. We want to see broadband expansion. We want to see the codification of a free and open internet. And we want to make certain that these principles are put in statute and that Congress makes these decisions, that they don't change every time you have a change at the Federal Communications Commission.
But again, Congressman, to David's point, what's wrong at the current time? I mean, Ben Brody of Bloomberg News has a great story out today looking at some of the research you're referring to that the FCC has put out. Yeah. One veteran analyst of the telecom industry who we speak to frequently said this is a classic case of garbage in, garbage out. There's been a lot of criticism of this research. That it's not rigorous research that shows that there's been any pullback in investment.
There's always going to be there are always going to be differences of opinion. I mean, you had Salon magazine saying that the net neutrality 2015 rules are a scheme for rate regulation. Recode has a great article that is out today about what you can expect from the internet once it goes back to Title I, an information service, which is where it's always been classified. What you do not want to do is leave it under Title II and then have it open to rate regulation and to taxes. People have read their telephone bills. They see that string of taxes that come about. They do not want that. They want a free and open internet. It isn't broken. doesn't need the federal government interference. It's working just fine. Innovation is taking place.
So finally, Congressman, I want to ask you about your position, because we've talked to you on other subjects. I know you're concerned about the little guy. And there's been a lot of investment being done in the internet by some really big guys, the Googles, the Amazons, the really big people, the Facebooks of this world. What do you do if it's not net neutrality through the FCC? What do you do to make sure that there's room for the little guy to grow up? Because let's be honest, there are 3 or 4 companies that are increasingly just dominating the internet.
You're exactly right, and we see this in the edge services, your providers like Google and Twitter and Facebook. And you're exactly right, there is concern on that. And I think if we codify the free and open internet principles and address the things that people want to see addressed, like I said, no blocking, no throttling, latency, if we put the emphasis going forward as we look at infrastructure and we look at broadband expansion, getting more people online, that's how you're going to allow people to innovate as we move into the healthcare technology sphere with greater innovation, as we move into artificial intelligence, as we see things that are happening with autonomous vehicles. And you're going to have in those edge provider spaces, in those utilization spaces, a lot more innovation that is going to take place.
Right.
Let's put it back to where it was as an information service. Let's make certain that it remains free and open and that it is light touch regulation, which is what we've had for years until the 2015 rules.